Biden for the release of the records after President Biden postponed the release of tens of thousands of records. So I put in a substantial amount of work on that effort. I'm not part of that group anymore, but that work led me into writing the book with Jim, Matt Crumpton, Mark Adamczyk, and Paul Blow, the other authors of JFK Assassination Chokeholds.
Yeah, of course, Biden didn't bloody release anything. All right, Jim, do you want to address the viewers?
Okay.
Thanks for coming on.
I've been a writer and researcher on this case for approximately the last 31 or 32 years in many functions. I was the editor and publisher of something called Probe Magazine. Today, that's transferred to the internet. It's called kennedysandking.com. I've been either the co-editor or the sole writer of 5 books on this case. And I was the screenwriter for Oliver Stone's documentaries, JFK Revisited and JFK Destiny Betrayed. The second one is a 4-hour version. The first one is a 2-hour version. And those films have been shown and sold in 15 different countries. All right, so far. Okay. All right, so that's roughly my background on this.
Wow, so this is you guys' life's work then. So, Andrew, we'll start with you then. And viewers, please get your questions in. I know some have already come in and I'm gathering them as we speak. But yeah, please put your questions in while we've got this opportunity while we're live with Andrew and Jim. So, Andrew, then, we recently had this news from Trump. What did you make of that about the release? I know there's not a date set, is there? There's like something's got to be decided about the date. Is that correct?
Yeah. Early last week, President Trump, well, I think it was actually on the 21st or 22nd, President Trump issued an executive order with respect to the JFK Records Act. And that order, I mean, the news has reported it that President Trump has released all the files. That actually hasn't happened. What has happened is that he's ordered the Director of National Intelligence and the Department of Justice to come up with a plan to release all the files. So I don't think any file has been released since the executive order, but there's probably, another 10 days in which a new plan has to be issued by the DNI and the Department of Justice to lay out, who knows how long it's going to take. It's already taken 60 plus years. So everyone is waiting to see what this plan is and how long and how effective it's going to be before the rest of the files are going to release. I have to be honest, we've heard this before, that all the files would be released in 2017. And really, this is what gets Americans especially so upset. This case is about one thing. Congress passed a law in 1992, and it mandated all of the records be released in October 2017. And this story is now turned into one of the government repeatedly violating its own laws. So I think this is what is getting people a little bit frustrated with what's happened. And hopefully President Trump is going to come through on his promise and actually release all of the files.
Yeah, it seems after these attempts on his life, he's being incentivized to shine a light on the deep state. And Jim, when you heard this news about the executive order, what was your gut reaction to it?
Well, let me say what's good about it, and then let me qualify that. First of all, this is really good in that it at least partly eradicates what Joe Biden had done, which Andrew wrote a very good article about at kennedysandking.com, which essentially You know something? I think I have to get some background so your listeners really understand what we're talking about. The reason there ever was a JFK Records Collection Act was because of Oliver Stone's 1991 movie, JFK, which I'm sure most of your listeners have either seen or heard. All right. At the end of that movie, Oliver put a caption on the screen that said, "The files of the last investigation of the Kennedy case, the House Select Committee on Assassinations, are closed until the year 2029." Now, remember, this is 1991. So when people left the theater, they're going, why do we have to wait 38 years to see the last secrets of the John F. Kennedy assassination? That doesn't make any sense if the Warren Commission was correct. All right. And so they literally besieged Washington. They sent in telegrams. They made phone calls. They sent faxes. They called their congressman. And they basically said, what in God's name is so secret about the Kennedy assassination that we have to wait? And then most of us will be dead, by the time those files are released anyway, And so this forced Congress to do something. And this was the JFK Records Collection Act of 1992. Now, George H.W. Bush dilly-dallied around this thing, for a year or two. All right. And then finally, when Clinton became president, he selected a 5-person board. Now, let me explain why this review board was so revolutionary. And that's not an exaggeration at all. It was a revolutionary agency. Up until that time, if you wanted the secrets of any kind of federal agency or crime, you would have to go through something called the Freedom of Information Act. See, the problem with the Freedom of Information Act was, number one, the plaintiff never actually saw the document. Okay? All right? So you were working relatively blind. And secondly, the plaintiff had the burden of proof. You had to show why this thing should be declassified against the grounds, and they always do this vague, rubric called national security. Okay, national security. All right. So the secrets of why Kennedy are dead are a matter of national security. Okay, so it was very difficult unless you had a great lawyer. Okay, to try and see with the review board, this was changed. They saw the document. They actually had the document. And so the burden of proof was now on the CIA or the FBI. You have to prove to us why we should not declassify this document. And these guys really didn't like this. The FBI at the first meeting when they came in, the FBI liaison came in with his attorney, and the board put the document on the screen. And the chairman of the board, John Thunheim, said, he turned to the FBI guy, "Now, what on earth is so important about not declassifying that document? You're going to have to prove it to us." And the FBI guy turns to his lawyer with a shocked look on his face, and he says, "They can really do that?" and the lawyer said, "Yeah, they can." Okay, and so that's what this was like. Okay, it was a revolutionary agency, and they declassified something like 2 million pages of documents, but they ran out of time and they ran out of money, and so they didn't finish the job. All right, but that is, although I say that, and although the MSN echoes that they didn't finish the job, as Andrew will tell you later, that isn't really true. Okay. And there's a very interesting story behind that, which he uncovered. All right. And so this is why this was now left to first Trump. Okay. Because Trump was up during the so-called termination date. In the JFK Record Collection Act law, it says every single document must be declassified by October 2017. And Trump even tweeted about this a week and a half before the termination date, which I think was October the 26th. Okay. He said, I'm really looking forward to declassifying the last of the JFK documents. And this is on the news. That tweet gets on CBS. Okay. So everybody's looking forward, to seeing the last of the JFK documents. And then what happens? On the day this was supposed to happen, the CIA and the FBI go into the Oval Office and they read Trump the Riot Act. Now, what is the Riot Act? The Riot Act goes something like this. If you declassify